I have a great time with my life, and I want to share it. Greatness is not this wonderful, esoteric, elusive, God-like feature that only the special among us will ever taste. You know, it's something that truly exists in all of us. It's very simple. This is what I believe, and I'm willing to die for it.
Yeah.
Period. It's that simple.
I know who I am, and I know what I believe.
I know who I am, I know what I believe.
That's all I need to know.
And that's all I need to know. So from there, you do what you need to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I think what happens is we make this situation more complex than it has to be.
Because we're looking for complexity. There's got to be something complex to understand.
It can't be that easy.
No.
I want to represent an idea. I want to represent possibilities. I want to represent the idea that you really can make what you want. One of my favorite books is The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, and I just believe that. I believe that I can create whatever I want to create. Being realistic is the most commonly traveled road to mediocrity. Why would you be realistic? What's the point of being realistic?
Just put up a barrier.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. It's done. It's already done. The second I decide it's done, it's already done. So now we just got to wait for y'all to see.
It's unrealistic to walk in a room and flip a switch and lights come on. That's unrealistic. Fortunately, Edison didn't think so. It's unrealistic to think you're going to bend a piece of metal and fly people over an ocean in that metal. That's unrealistic. But fortunately, the Wright brothers and others didn't believe that. Our thoughts, our feelings, our dreams, our ideas are physical in the universe. That if we dream something, if we picture something, if we commit ourselves to it, that is a physical thrust towards realization that we can put into the universe. That the universe is not a thing that's going to push us around. That the world and people and situations are not something that are going to push us around. That we are going to bend the universe and command and demand that the universe become what we want it to be.
I study the patterns of the universe. There's a redemptive power that making a choice has, you know, rather than feeling like you're at effect to all the things that are happening. Make a choice, right? You just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out your way. It's like it's water. It wants to move and go around stuff. You know, there's a flow of the universe that I've grown to know just how to go with it.
In life, everybody around you is a teacher for you. If you're in a bad relationship right now, you are a student of how to have a better relationship. If you're in a bad situation with your boss, that is a teaching situation for you to learn how to get yourself a better boss. Who would have thought in all of the years of the Oprah show that Jim Carrey would be one of our greatest teachers? Okay. Obviously you knew somewhere inside yourself that you were destined to be famous, because I think it's really a marvelous thing, that visualization thing you did. Do y'all read about this or hear this? That you used to go up on Mulholland Drive and park
every night
and visualize seeing yourself as...
Yeah, I would visualize,
This is when you were broke and poor.
You know, right, having directors interested in me and people that I respected saying, you know, I like your work or whatever that is. And I would visualize things coming to me that I wanted or whatever.
This was in like 1987, 85?
Yeah. And I had nothing at that time, so it was like, but it just made me feel better. It made me, at that time, all it really was for me was kind of making me feel better. I would drive home and think, well, I do have these things, and they're out there, I just don't have a hold of them yet, but they're out there.
Okay, and so you would get this from what, self-help books or whatever?
Yeah, self-help section.
Self-help section.
They've renamed it the Jim Carrey wing.
So didn't you write yourself a check? I heard that you did. Is that true?
I wrote myself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered, and I gave myself 5 years, or 3 years maybe, and I dated it Thanksgiving 1995, and I put it in my wallet, and I kept it there, and it deteriorated and stuff, but then just before Thanksgiving 1995, I found out that I was going to make $10 million on, I think it was Dumb and Dumber, maybe.
Dumb and Dumber, yeah. So you visualize yourself like... Visualization works if you work hard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the thing. You can't just visualize and then, you know, go eat a sandwich.
I love that. That was such a powerful moment for me because I was not a person who did visualization or thought about my belief system in such a practical way. But I learned a lot from Jim Carrey on that show, and he is absolutely correct. If you can see it and believe it, it is a lot easier to achieve it. So thank you, Jim, for reminding us of that lesson. And it doesn't mean that for every person that writes the $10 million check that that's going to happen for you, because so many times people who do that process live in the space of wanting and resisting it instead of writing it, visualizing it, seeing it for yourself, and then letting it go. Letting it go, but moving in the direction of working toward it. So nothing happens at first. It's over the process of the time and the effort and the energy that you put into a thing that the energy comes out.
En mi mayor punto de desesperación fue cuando empecé a conocer estos principios y al principio era escéptico, pero creo que hay dos tipos de escépticos en la vida, los que dicen esto no es verdad y no me lo creo y se van por donde han venido, o los que dicen esto no es verdad, no me lo creo, pero voy a comprobarlo. Y empecé a leer biografías de personas exitosas, empecé a leer biografías de millonarios, empecé a leer libros de gente que había prosperado y me di cuenta de que todos ellos habían prosperado de la nada. La mayoría de ellos, por no decirte todos, habían pasado por dificultades económicas en el pasado y sin embargo le habían conseguido dar la vuelta a la situación. Así que eso me dio esperanza y dije, si ellos lo hacen, yo también. Y uno de los puntos claves que empecé a aprender con todo esto fue lo que he dicho al principio del vídeo. Todo es energía y la energía es magnética y se atrae por vibraciones similares. Cada vez más entusiasmado con que realmente la vibración atrae aquello que vibra en la misma frecuencia. Conocí a una mujer que se llamaba Helen Hatzel y cuando en la década de los 60 se hizo muy famosa en Estados Unidos porque ganaba todos los concursos a los que se presentaba, todos, absolutamente todos. Y entonces yo, entusiasmado por lo que me acababa de pasar, dije, pues si esta mujer ha ganado todos los concursos, yo también puedo ganarlos. Y entonces seleccioné un concurso, compré el libro de esta mujer, compré su programa, empecé a hacer su método, lo añadí al método que estaba utilizando ya y justo puse la televisión y en el programa que estaban dando, en una cadena española que se llama Telecinco, estaban sorteando 1 millón de euros repartidos en premios de 5.000, 10.000, 15.000 euros por los 20 años de historia del programa, de la cadena, de Telecinco. Entonces decidí que ese iba a ser el premio que me iban a dar. En ese momento hice un plan de acción que es parte del proceso de cómo atraer el dinero, porque muchas personas creen que atraer el dinero es visualizar y quedarse esperando y no. La propia palabra ya lo dice, atracción es atraer mediante acción, solo tienes que tener los pasos claros y tener claridad, la claridad lleva al poder. Hice un plan de acción, hice unos pasos, tenía que mandar unos mensajes y recuerdo que estuve como 4 días haciendo un proceso muy intenso, muy intenso, muy intenso. Fíjate si tenía la seguridad que lo iba a ganar, que recuerdo una de las noches que me fui a casa de un amigo mientras estaban dando uno de los programas donde repartían uno de los premios y me quedé sin batería en el móvil, dejé la cena, dejé todo, me volví otra vez a la habitación de la residencia de la universidad para enchufar el móvil porque tenía la certeza de que me iban a llamar, sabía que me iban a llamar. Bueno, esa noche no me llamaron, pero lo que hice dentro del proceso es que tienes que ser muy exacto, así que dije, hay un programa en televisión, en el Telecinco, que se llama Sálvame, que es conducido por el presentador Jorge Javier Vázquez, que es muy conocido aquí en España, y dije, quiero que me dé el premio Jorge Javier Vázquez en el programa Sálvame. Bueno, y visualizaba eso, hacía el método de traer el dinero con eso, y pasaron 4 días y no sucedió nada. Pero al quinto día por la mañana recuerdo que tenía examen por la tarde y pensé, Laín, deja de hacer todo este proceso porque tienes examen por la tarde, vas a suspender el examen y te vas a quedar sin dinero. Así que ese día me puse a estudiar por la mañana y fue ponerme a estudiar y al cabo de muy poquito tiempo, al cabo de, no sé, media hora, una hora, recibí una llamada de teléfono desde un 91. Yo soy de Barcelona, el prefijo del teléfono de Barcelona es 93 y toda la gente que conocía en Madrid estaba en la universidad, así que o me tocaban a la puerta de la habitación o me enviaban un WhatsApp. Nadie me llamaba desde un 91 y allí supe que era del programa. Pero fue muy extraño porque no me llamaron del programa Sálvame de Jorge Javier Vázquez, me llamaron de otro programa de la misma cadena, que era el programa de Ana Rosa. Y cuando cogí el teléfono, lo primero que me preguntaron es, ¿tú has enviado algunos mensajes para participar en el concurso? Y dije, claro, algunos he mandado. Y entonces me dijeron, bueno, pues te ha tocado un premio, vas a salir en antena, te vamos a llamar dentro de media hora y Ana Rosa te va a dar un premio en directo. Ana Rosa te va a preguntar sobre varios temas y me dieron a elegir entre 4 temas y dije, bueno, pues entre todos los temas, Magazine. Y en Magazine te preguntaban acerca de cualquier programa de los 20 años de historia de Telecinco. O sea, no sé cuántos programas han hecho en 20 años de historia, pero cientos y cientos de ellos. Y lo más sorprendente de todo el proceso es que la pregunta que me dio el premio es exactamente lo que estaba visualizando.
Vamos a dar una alegría a alguien. Les hemos dicho que esta mañana nos sentimos generosos, nos hemos levantado de otra manera, vamos a celebrar que es martes y 13, que hay gente que con lo de martes y 13 dice, bueno, pues hay alguien que va a tener uno de los mejores días de su vida y eso que es martes y 13. Pues el que esté al otro lado del hilo telefónico. Sí, hola, muy buenos días.
Hola, buenos días.
Hola, ¿quién eres?
Mira, soy Laín de Barcelona.
¿Cómo me has dicho?
Laín, L-A-I-N.
Laín de Barcelona. Bueno, Laín, me imagino que... Ah, mira, yo lo estoy viendo escrito ahí. Me imagino que habrás mandado varios mensajes o varias llamadas de teléfono.
Sí, he mandado algunos.
¿Y te has preparado,
sí.
¿y te has preparado la historia de Telecinco?
Dime, sí, sí.
¿La tienes preparada? ¿Qué eliges,
Sí, bastante.
magazine, series, presentadores o reality?
Pues mira, Magazine.
Magazine. Espérate que me voy a poner las gafas porque el magazine, pero la letrita esta es un poco... Vamos a ver.
Muy pequeña. Cuerpo 10.
Mira, esta me la sé. ¿Cómo se llama el programa que nos acompaña cada tarde, conducido por Jorge Javier Vázquez?
Sálvame.
¡Hombre, te has salvado! Pero perdona, Laín, que esto lo vamos a decir muy alto. Hoy hemos dicho que era un día especial, es decir, que hoy doblamos casi nuestro premio. 15.000 euros para ti.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias.
Laín, felicidades. Oye, no habrás tenido muchos martes y 13 como este, ¿eh?
Pues la verdad es que ninguno. Muchísimas gracias.
Un besito muy fuerte.
Vale,
Y también
gracias.
a Barcelona, ¿eh? Bueno, Ainhoa, pues...
Vale.
¿Qué probabilidades hay de que me toque un premio en el que están participando millones y millones de personas en toda España? Pero más aún, ¿qué probabilidades hay de que me toque un premio y que la pregunta que me toque el premio es exactamente lo que yo estaba visualizando y lo que estaba pidiendo? Jorge Javier Vázquez, sálvame. No me dieron el premio en el programa de Jorge Javier Vázquez, pero la pregunta que me dio el premio fue ¿qué programa presenta cada tarde Jorge Javier Vázquez? Y era Sálvame. Así que de alguna u otra manera la ley actuó.
I guess I just want you to know that children, if they're raised a certain way to believe in their extraordinariness, that they can do anything. And this little girl just blew my wife and I and the rest of the family away with something that she did. In fact, so you tell them what happened, honey.
Okay.
What's this?
Oh, I'm a little nervous. There's a lot of people in here. Okay. So basically, I was 5 years old, and I had developed a rash of bumps on my face. And at first, it was just a rash, not a big deal. But eventually, after a couple weeks, it wasn't going away. So my parents took me to the doctor, and they gave me the diagnosis of flatwarts, which I hated the name of, so I called them my bumps. But I had flatwarts, and the doctor said that they would go away eventually. Like, the treatments were harsh, the medications were harsh, and that they really should go away. But, months go by, they're still not going away, they're really just getting worse. You couldn't see them so much as you could feel them, but I didn't like it. So my parents took me back to the doctor I think I had them for a total of like 2 years.
Oh, yeah. And they were getting worse and worse, and you could see
Yeah.
them, especially in the sunlight.
Well,
You
all
could
right.
see-
Apparently you could see them. But,
Excuse me, this is your father speaking here.
so
You don't dismiss me with all right and then just go on.
sorry. So we went back to a doctor in Hawaii, because that's where we would spend our summers. And we went back to the doctor there, and this was after years of them not going away and people just telling me that they would. And the doctor said, all right, it's been a few years, and your options really come down to, we can burn them off, which will be painful, and you'll have scars for a few years. And he said, or we can, you can take an oral medication that will cause your face to turn red, and it will peel, and you have to stay out of the sun, and all this. And we're in Hawaii, and I was like, no, that's not an option. So and then my parents were talking to him, and they're like, we're not going to do either of those. She's only 5 years old. There's got to be something else. And then my parents just looked at me and said that, maybe you can just heal yourself. Maybe you can talk to your bumps and make them go away. So as a 5-year-old, my parents telling me that, I took it very literally, and I was like, okay, that's the best option out of those three for sure. So. So I went home that night. We went back. We were in Hawaii, and we were me and all my siblings sharing a room. So that night I got in my air mattress bed on the floor and pulled the covers over my head. And apparently I used a flashlight.
Right.
I don't remember the flashlight, but and I got under my bed and under the covers, and I talked to my bumps for just for like 10 minutes before I went to bed. And then after doing that for 3 nights, then on the 4th night I got in bed to do it, and I reached up and I touched my face, and I was, oh my God, it's smooth. They're completely gone. So I jumped out of bed, I ran into my parents' bedroom and jumped in their bed, and they were reading, and I was like, you guys, they're gone. And I jumped, they felt my face, they were like, oh my God, they are gone. Like, no one could believe it. It was just 3 nights later when these had gotten to their worst point. They were all over my face. And then my dad asked me, what did you say to them? And I was embarrassed. I didn't want to tell them. I was like, I'm not telling. It's a secret, whatever. So, for about 5 more years, at first I'm being asked pretty much every hour, what did you say? All my siblings are asking me. I'm like, I'm not telling. It's a secret. And then, eventually they kind of gave up and stopped asking me. But just, when I was like, not that long ago, probably when I was 4 or 5 years ago, I came up again and I was like, okay, I'll tell you guys now. I'm a lot more mature. I'm ready to tell you. And I told my dad that I really just sent them love, and, in a child's voice, but I really just told my bumps, I said, I love you, and I appreciate you and what you're here for, but we can't be together anymore, and and you have to leave, and thank you. And I pictured them falling off my face as I remember the image of, I pictured myself walking down the sidewalk and them just falling off and having clear skin, and I imagined what it would feel like to have smooth skin on my face and so on. So, and then I think you told the dermatologist that.
Dr. Kenny Mallett, he's a dermatologist. He's a good friend of mine. And he broke down. He was sobbing when I told him what she had told him, that I just said, I love you, but it's time for us to depart ways.
Yeah. So, but I think that, as an adult, sometimes we can't do, you want something so badly, but you don't manifest it into your life because, as a child, I knew that it was going to work. I knew that talking to my bumps was going to make them go away because my parents had told me that it would, and I believed them. And that was enough of, a source for me to say, these are going to go away. When I spoke to them at night, there was no doubt in my mind that it wasn't going to work. There was no fear that I was going to be going back to the doctor. I just said, this was the 3rd medication option, So, and I think as adults, sometimes we want something so badly that we forget that you want it so badly that you fear that you won't have it. And then with that fear, you can't manifest something that way. You have to just know, and that's what I learned from myself as a 5-year-old, that sometimes today I'll want something so badly, but it's not working, and it's not working the way I want it to. But you remember the way you were as a child when, you would just believe your parents, and you knew that it would work so that it would, you know, if that makes sense.
It does, Sage. That's very great. Thank you, baby.
Don't ever let somebody tell you you can't do something. Not even me. All right? You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.